Thank you for the invitation to this conference in Brussels. I'm so sorry I can't be there. I'm still in Sweden, in the southern part of Sweden, in Gothenburg, where the sun is shining today. So maybe I'm a little lucky that I'm still at home, but I would have liked to be with you all. I think it's a very important conference. We have to move forwards. There are still so many myths about cochlear implants. So that's why I'm today going to talk about cochlear implant statistic to clarify the need for cochlear implant. CIICA services and intervention must really change. It's high time. There was a professor in global health. He was a member in Barnplanterna organization because his grandson contracted meningitis in 2016. That's how Hans Rosling became a member, and a very active member in Barnplanterna. You probably heard about him. Hans said something that was really true that I will never forget. He said, facts are not always a lack of knowledge, but it is a lack of willingness to absorb new knowledge. Next slide. We still need to, I say still, it's sorry, but it's still, we need to crush the myths saying cochlear implants are expensive. We have to crush the myths saying that cochlear implants do not work. We also have to be very effective in spreading information. It can be about statistics, revealing the reality. And we also need knowledge about cost effectiveness and quality of life. Next slide. Since 1998, Barnplanterna have been providing Sweden with statistics annually about children and adults. How many do receive unilateral and bilateral cochlear implants? How many are reimplanted, whatever cause, and what manufacturer is chosen? We send this form, go back. We send this form out to all the 7 CIICA clinics in Sweden. And for many years, that was the only statistic available in Sweden until the Ministry of Health got too embarrassed that a small patient organization provided whole of Sweden with this. Next slide. Facts reveal and highlight the amount of bilateral and unilateral each year. We compare children versus adults. How many children have unilateral, how many have bilateral, and the same with the adults. An interesting question is, did the pandemic affect amount of cochlear implant surgeries? We need national guidelines in Sweden. Still, after so many years, we do not have national guidelines. We need planning of cochlear implant care, not according to amount of money, but needs of cochlear implant. Next slide. So did the pandemic affect cochlear implant care and surgeries? This is a statistic from the Ministry of Social Welfare showing each year how many operations that is done on 100,000 inhabitants. And we can see, you see the red circle, that's where the pandemic was. And that's very obvious that the amount of surgeries just dipped and it's slowly coming up again, but not so fast. And the surgeries are wondering, how come it ended up like this? Why? They still don't know. Next slide. Is availability of cochlear implant surgeries equal nationally? No, it's not. It really depends on where you live in Sweden. And that is sad. It should be equal wherever you live. Statistics here show amount of cochlear implant surgeries per 100,000 inhabitants in each region annually. And you can see the small red arrow that says nationally, and it's in the middle, but there are a lot of regions that don't do that amount. And there are only a few regions that are better than the national statistic. So we have a lot to work on. Next slide. So how about unilateral versus bilateral? This is the statistic from Barnplantorna web page. And we can see on the left, children, all children in need of bilateral receive it. But if you look at the adults, a minority receive bilateral cochlear implant, because the blue shows how many that have bilateral. But maybe you wonder, why do not all children have a bilateral? There should be only blue staples. But you know, some of them have hearing aid and cochlear implant together. So that's, we don't know. I would really like to have statistics to see how many children that have hearing aid on the other ear and cochlear implant on the opposite, the same as with adults. But that statistic we don't have. So statistic does not reveal everything, but the statistic we have reveals enough to be able to draw some very important conclusions. Next slide. So the conclusion is that we need to destroy the myths and continue to inform about facts over and over again, as we have done for decades now. Next slide. How do we spread knowledge? Because that's very important, not only in the conferences like this, but we spread knowledge to CI clinics, to members, all over social media like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, press release in my news desk, and we contact the authorities like Ministry of Social Welfare, Public Health Agency, etc., etc. That's very, very important to show the statistic, and we keep doing it. Next slide. That was all, so thank you very much. Enjoy the conference, every one of you. Thank you.